Yes, yes. Welcome once again to the Young Entrepreneur Mindset Podcast. I am your host, Angel, and I am so thankful that you are here today, ready to listen to some positive news, some positive mindset, leadership, entrepreneurship mindset. Listen, this podcast is about bringing you that information, right? Bringing you that motivation that any entrepreneur need out there, whether you're just young, mid-age, older, it doesn't matter the age. It's that you have that young spirit, right? That young mindset that's always being creative, right? That's always ready to go to the next level. So listen, this podcast is the podcast that's made for you. It's made for you, the person that's just starting as an entrepreneur with this business, or maybe you have some experience already, right? Maybe you already broke ground and you're already expanding your network and your net worth to different levels, right? So listen, tune in to the YouTube channel, subscribe. I appreciate it if you guys could subscribe and like, give us a comment, leave your feedback. If you ever want to be a guest on this podcast, hey, you're more than welcome to. I always have my doors are always open to anyone, any background. It doesn't matter what part of the country, what part of the world you're in, whether it's the West Coast, East, on the other side of the globe. It doesn't matter. We'll make it happen. Okay, so as always, this podcast is available. If you're listening to the audio download, I want to thank you for taking the time to listen to this audio download. I invite you to use the Anchor app, which is Anchor's a very convenient way to get your audio download on all the platforms such as Pandora, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, you name it. Everywhere you could get a podcast audio downloaded. Anchor is one of the best ones out there. And that's my favorite. That's the one that I use. Also, thanks to StreamYard, which is the one that I'm using right now as well, where you could use on multi channels, such as YouTube channel, your Facebook page, your Facebook personal page, even your profile for the business, whatever it is. You can share it, download it. You can share it on TikTok, Twitter, Instagram. So all those sites are there and they're there to be used. All right. So also on Twitter, I am under Angel Santos 75. Go ahead and follow me there, and under Instagram under Angel Santos Podcast. All right, guys. So listen, real quick. Thank you again for being here, man. I am super excited because today is Monday, of course, and it's Happy Mindset Monday. I hope all of you are having a fantastic Monday so far. So, listen, guys, today I have a special guest. All right, his name is Alundas Havens. All right, all the way from West Coast, all the way in the California area. Listen, this guy is an entrepreneur. This guy has his own podcast. We'll be talking about that, how he started his podcast and whatnot. But listen, this gentleman right here, I met him through Podmatch, by the way. So Podmatch is another platform that if you're a person that's looking for guests, I recommend Podmatch because I have some high quality but super quality people that are well connected with their community, within their business and whatnot, and they're always out there helping others. So speaking of helping, Mr. Havens is someone who is always connected with people, right? He's helping others. He's a veteran as well. He's also served in the military, so we appreciate his service. And he's also helped recalibrate their mindset. That's what we're talking about today, about recalibrating your mindset and maximizing your influence. So tune in all the way to the end because I know that Mr. Havens is going to be able to add a lot of value, not only to this platform, but to your life. All right. So you need to listen to his story and listen to what he's going to share so we can recalibrate. I love that word, to recalibrate your mindset and to maximize your influence. So without further ado, man, let's go ahead and bring this wonderful gentleman. How are you doing, Lundas?
Good, brother. Thank you for letting me come on, Angel. It's been a pleasure, brother.
Hey, man, it's a pleasure, man. I know we are short on time and whatnot, so I respect your time. And first of all, thank you for your time and for looking me up on the podcast, on the pod match, and looking at my podcast. And I appreciate it, man. And thank you for this opportunity. I know it's you have a lot. You've been through a lot, man. And I want you to share your story. You know, like I said, thank
Absolutely,
you for your
brother.
service, man. You
Thank
were
you.
in the Marines, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, man. Thank you. I appreciate that. So, first of all, how's the family? How's the? I know the weather in the West Coast has got to be. You guys are in a drought over there like crazy.
Yeah, so where I live at, I'm about an hour north of San Diego, and what's funny is
Okay.
over here, it's well, we've lived here for about a year, so it's been funny. Was last year this time was completely different. Well, excuse me, it was hot in July, but June,
Okay.
it's really at the end of June it started getting hot. So it was funny is it's supposed to be hot out here, but it was cold
Yeah.
as heck all year. Raining in
Wow.
April, and then it kind of went in there. San Diego has weird weather as well, so I'm in the good
I
part
heard
of
about that.
California with the good weather. So the good thing is hey, I got to drive an hour or south, and then I'm able to get colder weather, so I don't have to deal with the heat as much. Where I'm at, it
Okay.
does get hot, so that's where like right now it's like the hottest of the year, which is
Yeah.
kind of funny.
That's crazy. Yeah, San Diego does have some crazy weather, man. I've heard about that. It's like the perfect weather in the US. It's crazy.
So
It's just
last week,
crazy.
I left to the airport on Thursday, and it was 100 degrees out here in Marietta, which is an hour away. And when I was in San Diego and I went to the airport,
70. It's
it
like 70 degrees.
yeah, it was like 70 degrees and it was raining. And I was like, what the? How is it raining
Wow.
over here?
That's crazy. So, Mr. Havens, man, thank you again for being here. So let's go ahead and get right into it.
Good.
Just share your story. I like my audience to get to know my guests, and share your story, whether it's, that father figure that was there, maybe wasn't there, mom, uncles and brother, like who was that role model? Like, what was it like for you growing up? 'Cause you weren't born in California, right? You were saying you were.
No, I was born in California. Um,
Okay.
so for me, I'm from Fresno, California originally, which is the center of California.
Okay.
Not really much going on there, and it really is.
Yeah.
It's one of those places where you either get your act together, or you don't at all, and you're in that loop. It's sad. So for me,
Wow.
my parents split up when I was about 3, 4 years old, and from there they were 21, 19. So young and dumb when they had me.
Okay.
They thought that partying was the way to go, as all young people do.
Of
But I seen
course.
all the crazy things that they were doing and bringing people in and out. So when I was younger, I struggled with relationships because I had so many people come in and out my life that I didn't really understand things. It was kind
Mm.
of funny. I was talking like I didn't understand social cues as a kid. Even now, like for instance, when a girl touches you and they're like, "Oh, that means she likes you," I'd be like, "Why are you touching me?" And it's just because I didn't understand these
You don't
things. You know what I
understand
mean?
it.
So
Wow.
all these things as a kid. My parents were alcoholics. My dad was abusive. Mom had more the limiting belief side, and then I had a racist stepdad. So it was one of those
Wow.
where it was hard with the identity because I also I'm 75% Mexican, 25% black. So I grew up with all Mexicans, no black
Yeah.
side of the family because my grandma had an affair. So it was kind of hard identifying there as well as my stepdad. I'd get designs in my hair trying to express myself. What do you do in your
Yeah.
hoodlum? Put a hat on, don't go anywhere with me. So it was one of those where it was like me as a kid couldn't express myself and then getting abused and having a little bit of trauma there. I didn't really heal it. So ended up going to the military and had another big traumatic event with my stepdad. And that was one where it was like I got kicked out of my house. I always try to find a way and feel that role model issue where it's like I had the hustler dad, I had the stepdad that taught me the hard work, and then I had my
Okay.
wrestling coach that was there for me so I can be able to talk because both parties I can only talk about certain things. And if I talk
Yeah.
about anything out of those three things, it pops off and we're screaming at each other. So for me, it kind of was that. I got married, and that's when I realized that all that stuff that happened to me as a child was coming out. That I didn't really like people, and it wasn't
Right.
necessarily that. It was just for me. I'm an introvert, and I've always connected on a deeper level. So when I talk with
Okay.
you, it's like, hey, Angel, I really want to get to know you as a person. Not Angel, what's your favorite football team? And next time I talk to you, it's about football. No, I don't.
Yeah.
It's okay, but at the same time, that's shallow. I don't know you like that. So for me, it was
Exactly.
learning that, hey, I don't have a problem with connecting. It's more that I want to get to know people on that real level, have those conversations. And in my case,
Okay.
getting married, all the trauma came out. I started going crazy. Started drinking because the military, high stress environment. So I was drinking,
Of course.
a gallon of whiskey at one time, and then I just realized,
Wow.
it wasn't for me. And then a week before my daughter was born, that's where I created my podcast, The Winner's Paradigm. Really, where I took, my mess, made it into a message. I basically said, hey, the word recalibrate. We're making sure that, hey, we're changing all those views that we had. We're making sure that
Hmm.
whatever happened to us isn't repeated because I found in my family it was all generational where my grandmother did it to my
Ah.
dad, he did it to me, I started doing the dumb
Yeah.
shit, and then it
Yeah.
was it was one of those where I shouldn't even have got married because that's how bad I was with my wife initially, and then we had a miscarriage, and I was like, you know what, I want to take care of you. So for me, starting the podcast, that's where it really was I was like, hey, I want to be able to help give massive impact, But two,
Exactly.
I want to have those conversations people don't want to have, and I want to be able to say, hey, I thought this way, and this is what it led me to. And when I changed my views, when I educated myself, when I got in the rooms with the right
Yeah.
people, everything fell in line, and I actually learned more, and grew out of that victim mindset, so I wouldn't repeat that same history.
That's important, right? You said that victim mindset. Like, how did you make that shift when you talk about that victim mindset? Because obviously, your childhood, you didn't have a good experience, and then you joined the military like right after high school. Is that
Uh-huh.
how it happened?
Correct. So for
Okay.
me, the victim mindset, when I was younger, my parents didn't let me have the victim mindset. So they really were like, just shut up, no one cares,
Yeah, it was
stop
like this. Be
complaining.
quiet.
Yeah, no one's gonna feel for
Yeah,
you. And it was true,
exactly.
because I'd go to other people's houses and stuff, and I would start talking, and it was one where like they would feel for me. So I always felt that connection. I always tried to help people and figure shit out, but I didn't really know what to do. So for me, it was
Right.
that. For me, the only victim kind of thing it was, and I was actually talking to my business partner about this, was like with my stepdad, he had these crazy ass beliefs, and he would say shit. And my mom, she had like, she would meet the onesie two people. So I'll bring this up. My family's from Guanajuato in Mexico, so they
Okay.
came over here. My grandpa had 11 kids, so five with his first wife, six with my grandmother. Seven of his kids and him and my grandma are from Mexico. So my mom would say things like, "Oh, illegal immigrants coming to this country and stealing our benefits," because she talked to one person and they said, "Oh, why would I want to work? I can just get free benefits." That's wrong. You know what I mean?
Wow.
Because not all
Yeah.
illegals are like that. But in my case, I got pissed because I was like, "That's your own family who's illegal, and
Exactly.
you're talking this." So I questioned everything. My mom really took some of those crazy beliefs from my stepdad, and I think part of it too. She was a stay-at-home mom for 10 years, so I think that's part of
Okay.
why it was the security issue. She
Yeah.
wanted to make sure that we were secure and taken care of, so she agreed with
Absolutely.
things. But for me, it was kind of like, oh, you chose him over me. My mom doesn't love me. So when I talk about that victim mindset, like for me, that was one form of it, was thinking that my mom was caring. She was always there for me in that. She has her flaws and she has this power complex and thinks that she can never be wrong. But
Yeah.
that's her, you know what I mean? And she's still like
And
that
that's
today.
the way she was raised. So is
Exactly.
that she is what she learned from her parents maybe. So she carried on to you.
Exactly, and that's what weird too is my grandpa. He didn't speak any English, so me and him would stare at each other. He died when I was like 7, so yeah, it was
Wow.
pretty funny. One day I grabbed a chair and I wanted to get cereal, so I put the chair down and I try to go, and he's probably like 6'3", and takes the chair away from me and he's like, "No, mijo," and then he pulled like I grabbed like the little top ramen and I look at him
Yeah.
and he's like, "See," and then he was eating napales and he was just eating, and I was like, "I don't like cactus. Why would I want that?" So it was one we're just staring at each other like we didn't know how to communicate, but it was one for
Wow,
me.
that's
So
crazy.
it was kind of learning those things, and then, like you said, my
Yeah,
my parents passed the stuff down. So for me, it was really not repeating it, and
exactly.
I found like a lot of it, the drinking, the trying to act cool, it all stemmed from that, and kind of not
Yeah,
healing that trauma.
exactly. So how do you help others? Because when we talk about recalibrating your mindset, like why do you use that? What's that I like the word. It's perfect. Like recalibrating. How can we explain that more simpler? Recalibrating that mindset to maximize your influence.
So what I mean there is really just challenging your beliefs and why,
Okay,
anything you believe in. You believe in the Bible, you believe in God, people are going to challenge your beliefs. You even challenge it at times. So I
absolutely.
felt like with the recalibrating your mindset, it's really initially channeling that to be able to challenge those beliefs. But number two, what it is you're really acknowledging it. So if you have that victim mindset, if you have grown up bad, if you're trying to break the cycle, if you're trying to even be better, you got to acknowledge where you came from, and then you got to be able to go from there and say, hey, this is how I can get better, this is how I can improve. So that's really where I started getting better, was
Okay.
figuring that out, and was like, hey, I need to make sure this doesn't happen. So in my case, drinking a lot, um, broke up with the
Yeah.
wife before we started dating, like when we were first dating, because I had a toxic ex, and then I was like, I'm gonna go to the toxic ex and I'm gonna stop with her. And then I was just like, I don't want
Oh
this. So
my
then,
God.
me and the wife had a miscarriage, and that's what brought me back. And I said, I'm going to take care of her. We actually grew up together as well, so we're great friends. And that was
Okay,
one where I was like, you know
that's
what, I
good.
love her. I'm going to be who I need to be and stop being stupid. So for me, it was realizing
Exactly.
that, learning that it was trauma, and that's the why keep trying to fill this void instead of actually taking the time. So I talk about
Exactly.
that. I talk about how past 6 months ago I started getting into meditation, and and really,
Mm.
finally after, years being able to sit in a room by myself and control my thoughts. And then
Mm.
two, channeling that. So yeah, you're gonna have the times like I deal with depression and anxiety from all that shit from my childhood, and it's one of those
Of
where it's like
course.
I do have that time to be vulnerable, and I start crying and I journal it. You know what I mean? I'm like, why am I crying like a little girl? Probably because this bothered me or this and that. And I'm able to give my time that because I feel like a lot of it,
Okay.
it's us being macho as men, and that's the way to
Yeah.
be. And it's a
Absolutely.
narrative that's pushed because we can't have these conversations with our theos and with
Now,
my dad.
they
No,
slap you. What? Stop being a wimp. Bah.
one of my cousins, he's bipolar, and my tío was like, that shit doesn't exist, and I'm like, obviously it is if he's being just crazy, drinking like crazy, acting off impulse. My tío was like, get his shit together, and I'm like, you should
Yeah.
understand this because my tío had a past too, so it was one of those for me where it's like
Okay.
you gotta really accept that, but two is like acknowledge it. So that's why I really like bringing the light. I talk about all those things, even on Facebook. I'm real big on that. I'm like sharing it with people
Yeah.
because I feel like that's huge. We get trapped into that macho shit, and you don't even become
Yeah.
because you're so focused on being a tough guy, and it's like that's not what a tough guy is. If you look at any warrior throughout history, they have all aspects of life. You know what I mean? They're able to
Yeah.
channel it and that. So
Exactly.
that's exactly what
So
we
we
are
talk
in young.
about exactly. So what we talk about maximizing your influence, like why is that so important to you? Like someone should maximize their influence. I mean, we all should influence, right, one another. So
Yeah, you're influencing people regardless, whether you like it or not. So when I'm talking
it
about
could be a negative
maximizing,
way or a positive way.
exactly. So when I'm talking about maximizing it, it really goes down to impact, and what is your significance of it? Like your podcast, you talk to young entrepreneurs and you guys give people mindset tools and say, hey, this is what you can do, or this is what we've done,
Right.
right? So I do the same thing essentially is really challenge those beliefs, figure out that corrective action plan for people to be able to get better, and then give them those stories. So if they're like, man, I'm going through this, and I'm like, you know what, I've been through that as well. I had a teacher where she told me I'm a leader, and I'm like, no, I'm not, and I just want to be the class clown because I couldn't function in classrooms. We go
Right.
outside, and then she's like, say one good thing. So I'm like, you know what, F this class. Everybody's like, yeah. I go in this class, I'm like, Miss B, this is the best class ever. And everybody's like, yeah, so it's me learning that as a junior in high school, so I share things like
Okay.
that so people can see, hey, we do have the influence to help others, but it's about that impact. And what are you
Right.
doing that's going to help out other people? How are you being the best you can be? How are you living by it and setting the example? And it all goes in those aspects, because you can't just say one thing and do another.
No, exactly, exactly. So you work with other entrepreneur, like business owners. How do you work with them? How you help them in what areas?
Correct. So I actually started a company, Alpha Influence Media, and that's what we do is we get other
Okay.
alpha entrepreneurs, alpha podcasters aligned to their ideal guest audiences, and then we make sure we have the right fit for them, as well as getting them to a point where they're going to have 10,000 downloads or more, and have strategic ads campaigns for them, so they can create a little side hustle off it. So essentially, we'll set them up with a
Nice.
plan. People will charge for people to go on their show, so $500, for example, and then we'll give them $250 every time we get someone booked. And we're saying, hey, we
Mm.
got you aligned to the right people. You add them to your network. Now you have a little bit of comfort as well because you have money there, and your investment's taken care of. So they kind of get both of that. They get the strategic
Hmm.
ad campaign that's going to help them increase the downloads, better their following, and then they're only being intentional with who they're connecting with. So it's only adding
Okay.
to there. So it's not one of those things with podcasts where you get someone on and then you look and like 2 months later they're not podcasting anymore. It's gonna be one of those where it's like well established
Exactly.
people like yourself, where it's like everywhere they're dropping, they're active, they're posting it out. We want to make sure that we're connecting them with that. So I'd say that's
Yeah.
the best part is like having a talk, and that's one of my things is like when we're having that first strategy call, I'm going to ask you about your core values. I'm going to say, tell me more about what you're passionate about. Whether
Exactly.
if you're a business to business guy and you're trying to just sell to other podcasts, okay, well, tell me why you're passionate about that because I want to be able to help you. But if our
Right.
core values don't align, I'm not going to work with you. You know what I mean? Because I
Exactly.
don't want you to get that image or me and try to put this in something that we're not. I want to make sure that we're both aligned. We're doing something that's going to better the community, better everybody. It really
Exactly.
goes into that.
Yeah. Wow, man, that's awesome. I like that. I like that a lot, man. That's important because sometimes people just think that first of all, this is not easy. Like this whole podcasting and trying to get like I'm trying to my YouTube channel for over a year, trying to work with that and it's hard because you gotta have so much content, constantly, and that's very challenging. But it's also I think even more challenging is getting guests that could be on your platform and that could add a lot of good content, right? Of course, some
Absolutely.
people are comfortable, being live, and others are not, or they're kind of shy. Or you talk, bro. You keep talking, and I like that because it's like I actually one question is like you have a ton of story, and it comes with experience too. I guess it comes with a lot of
Absolutely.
experience. After a while, you get a good experience, and you get more comfortable with your story. For me, for example, and my best advice to anyone that's doing a podcast, even for the guests, is like always get your story. Like your story has to be, you have to know your story from like A to Z. I mean, it's your story, right? It's like how you grew up, and what was the most important, right? Little. I mean, you're
So
gonna talk about, oh, when I went to school, and then no, it's like when I tell people, it's like, tell me about you growing up. It's like I want them to open,
there
right?
you go.
Don't be
Yeah.
afraid. Tell your story how it is. It's raw. I say, listen, I went through this. I went through drugs, alcohol. I was abused. Parents, abusive parents, etc. Or I dropped out of school. So just be open. I think that's very important, and a lot of people as guests they miss that.
So that's what I was going to say is there's podcasts out there. I just did two of them last week where I realized I need to be able to shorten down my origin story. So they asked me on both of those, they said like, hey, how did you grow up? What led you to where you're at now? I'm like, okay. So I went through a whole 10 minutes of it and I said, hey, this is what happened the whole time and I got abused and these things happened. Here's some examples and kicked out of my house and went to the military and became my own boss, and then from there struggled getting out in jobs. And it was one of those where it was like I was talking so fast, but I really could just condense it and just be like, yeah, man, I got abused and had these limiting beliefs and it led to this and I got kicked out of my
Yeah.
house, and really left me to be like, yo, what am I going to do? Went to the military, worked jobs after that didn't align with me, had a job that said, hey, when my nanny moves to Minnesota and I have to watch the baby full time now, they didn't respect that. And the first thing they come at me for, even though I was their best sales rep, was, hey, is your heart still in it? So from there, after that question that they
Mm,
said, I'm easily replaced. I said, you know what, I'm out. Talk to my mentor. We started a business. So it's just kind of with experience. And I'd say for me too, you talked about content making. I
yeah.
post like 10 things on Facebook a day, which is really hard,
I see that, bro. I see your TikTok earlier. I'm like,
Yeah.
dang, he got videos all over lined up. I'm like, dang, he
Yeah.
got videos
So
everywhere.
what I do is just the more I go in my phase. So meditate, I think, I journal, I read books, I watch videos. I'm thinking. So I'll have like
Yeah.
one taken care of before the night before, and then I really like stock up on three or four other little posts that come like during the day when it flows. So when your creativity flows, I just stop what I'm
Exactly.
doing and I post it. I not post it right away, but I like save it for later. So that way I have like three,
Yeah.
four, five, six that I can post. I can do multiple a day, and that's how
Okay.
I'm able to do that. Originally it sucked. I struggled. I was like, I
Yeah.
don't have anything to talk about. And it's like, you actually do have a
Yeah.
lot of things to talk
You
about.
do. You
It's
do.
just, you
Yeah.
have to find that inspiration on to bring it up.
That's it right there. So tell me something, Havens. For example, when you're working with someone, right, whether it's podcasting, entrepreneurship, business owners, anything, what is the most challenging thing? Because not only are we working with a certain industry or a business, we're working people to people, right? And every people to people, we have different characters, right? Where some people are real happy, some people are sad, some people are energetic, some are mellow. You know what I'm saying? It's like up and down. It's like, so what to you has been the most challenging in this? Because for me, there's a lot of stuff I could be talking about, but for you, what is the most challenging part about working that kind of like that one-on-one with people?
That's good. And that's why I say, it goes down to core values when you have that strategy call. You
Okay.
definitely want to make sure that you guys are the right fit to work together. Because
Yeah.
for instance, I had a client that I was, a prospect, I should say, that I was interviewing. And it was one of those where it was like he was giving me so much feedback and he was like, oh, this, and I already have a top rated podcast, I already have good guests on. And like, okay, well, tell me why at the beginning of the call you're interested so much and now you're not, because I'm telling him what we
Mm.
can do for him. I'm telling him this. I'm thinking, I'm like, man, what is it? He wants me to guarantee that Russell Brunson's going on his podcast. And then he wants to
Oh,
guarantee that all these other things are going to happen. I'm like, I'm not guaranteeing you that. And number
yeah.
two, from a core value perspective, I'm not a fan of ClickFunnels. I worked at a job and it was never working for us. So I didn't
Yeah.
use it. I just sent the document, the e-signature for people to sign, and they signed it. And that's how I did my contracts. I was like, because at the
Mm.
same time too, I was working with elderly people. So it makes no
Okay.
sense, to walk them through a funnel and it's put your name here, put your email. Sometimes they don't know how to do that. But I can say, hey,
Exactly.
all you got to do is go to the bottom of this paper, click that box, and write your little signature with your finger. Okay, that's easy. So it's what process works for you. In that case, like that guy
Okay.
didn't align with what we were trying to do. But two, it was just like he had this vision of something else and he wanted me to kind of bow down to him on that. And that's not what
Oh
you do,
yeah.
as a
No.
partnership. So I'd say that's the
Yeah.
first start. Make sure you guys are aligned and you guys can do that. From there,
Exactly.
it's really asking good questions. So I had another client, she squared away, but I didn't ask her, hey, how many podcasts have you gone on? I just kind of gave her, I asked her what she wanted to do. She fell business to
Yeah.
business and marketing. And then we did a campaign that way. I reached out a lot of people, podcasts to get her on. Had a lot of
Okay.
success there. It's just we put for the first month, she booked all the pre-interviews instead of the actual interviews because they were a little backed up. But for more months to
Ah.
come, she has interviews now. So it was kind of one of those things where it's like, hey, my partners took care of that, and they said it was a month-to-month thing, and it was one of those. No,
Okay.
this is something we want to do for 6 months. Why? Because it gives us enough time to do multiple things. We can have the first
Yeah.
plan in there, and you're like, oh, I want to do business owners, and then two, I want to do physical trainers, and then three, I want to do real estate. So you can kind of learn all these things, but you've mixed and matched, so you can kind of have that. So I know for my podcast, I do that. I'm booked up all the way till March of next year, and one of those things I
Dang.
do, is I have um, I use Podmatch like crazy, and that's how
Yeah.
I was able to do it. Was I had the pro, and I'll just get the pro members. But two, what I
Okay.
did, is kind of have an underlying theme. So every quarter, I have a sales episode, and that way I can show people, hey, this is what you can do to up your sales game because I'm constantly
Mm.
getting better at sales. And then
Yeah.
right now, it's like about I'm finishing up this little bit that I had that was earlier on, and then it's going to go back into a little bit of sales, more spirituality. So it's going to be about talking about spirituality. We're going to have a
Oh,
million.
cool.
We have a millionaire on there. He's talking about not making money. He's talking about actually like how you're living your life and things that are going to set you
Mm.
up for success. So like that's the stuff you need to do is really give the
Yeah.
people the stuff away from it because it's easy to build a business, easy to get better at sales, but it's not
It
easy
is.
to do the hard work and relook at yourself, look in that mirror. Maybe you got to eat cleaner. And it's like, all right, well, what do I got to do? I got to change my relationship with food. So it's like those are the things I
Yeah.
like to share. And be like, hey, this is what I struggled with. These are the episodes I'm putting because it's made me better.
Exactly. So do you work do you have a team that you work with or is it just you right now?
Correct. So I do have a team. I have two other business partners, Zach
Okay.
Babcock, who has Underdog Empowerment podcast. And then I have Tim Holloway, which he has the Stoic Entrepreneur podcast. And then he's currently writing a book as well. So Zach's been in this game
Okay.
um, for some years now. And man, he's all over the place. I just
Oh,
recorded an
wow.
episode for his podcast. And then Tim's the ops guy that's just huge. Like, man knows everything. He knows what to do, knows how to do the
Yeah.
marketing. So it's just like one of those, like, you got a good team, you have people to fall back on. Me and Zach are
Exactly.
visionaries, and we can be able to do that. And then Tim is able to actually run the business and be able to do all these things and show us, hey, this is what you can do. So it's awesome. It's like we get that, and then we even have another guy, Callie, who comes in and he's like, hey, these are other things that we can do. This is what I do because he builds
Exactly.
and manufactures products. So he's able to work with big
Ah,
companies,
okay.
Google, Amazon, anyone you can think of, Facebook. He's worked with
Wow.
them. And one of those things
Wow.
is like he channels, hey, this is what you can do. So we just fixed our offers for what we were going to do for the business. And we're like, hey, we need to make this better, make it easier. Like we said, we pay our
Exactly.
clients for getting people booked on their shows. And we're
Yeah.
like, damn, that's a really good idea, because there's another service out there, Guestio, and you have to pay people to get them on your podcast. But
Oh, yeah.
if you're on a low podcast, you're not pay, no one's going to pay $400 for yours. But if you have the following and you have it strategically taken care of, you can be able to do
Yeah.
that, and then you can afford the higher guests as well because it pays in. So you're paying in essentially, and if they want to keep that money and pay other guys, we can do it.
Exactly.
So it really gives
Okay.
back to them because it gives them more opportunity to focus on the business side, and then two,
Yeah.
on the networking side as well.
Exactly. That's important. Yeah, because I you talk about that. See, one of my favorites up here. I have that Guestio, and it's like a desert out there right now because I just happened to find it. I don't even know. I just heard about it or I got an email or something.
They
And
had a good Facebook ad that was like $1 for a month, and that's how they got a bunch of people.
oh, I will
Yeah.
probably throw in there because I was like, what's this? I saw the email and I clicked on it and then I just created a free profile thing. But to be honest, Havens, I had when I started this podcast, like my vision and my mission was to connect with great entrepreneurs, right, and all different mindsets, but for everyone to come as a community, I guess, and to everyone connect with one another. So I've had some success stories, very few, but some success stories that because of being on my podcast, they got a new client, or someone became a new member, or they follow their podcast, etc., and they started doing business on their end. I didn't get nothing out of it, which is fantastic. It wasn't, I wasn't doing it for me to get something out of it. The whole thing is like, it's a learning process for me. So I enjoy helping others, right? Just like you do, you help others, try to find out a strategy to either build their business or build maybe their podcast, their social media platforms, because there's a lot of influencers out there now that are looking to grow, and I think it's
Absolutely.
challenging out there. So I think it helps when you have a lot of support. That's why I tell people, hey, thank you for your support. Thank you for your comments and follows. There's very few that do that, right? But at least the ones that do it, that that are loyal to you, then those are the ones that I support and I help as well.
Hey, bro, you're amazing, and I agree 100%. There's so many
Yeah,
influencers out there, but doesn't mean they're all good ones. And that's what we got to do, is do our part, and be able to say it. So you got to say the
exactly.
things people aren't going to like sometimes, and that's it. And like
Yep.
I put out there the other day, a guru that there's a lot of people that love this guy and they go to his events, and I'm just not a fan of him anymore. And he posted that work-life balance isn't a thing, and grind, grind, grind,
Mm,
grind. I don't agree with that anymore. I did that for so long, but nothing good came to that. I neglected the
that's
wife
true.
when I'm grinding, working 60 to 80 hours a week and going to college. And then my
Yeah,
wife's feeling bad. And then it's now like I got a daughter. So I can't put my wife and daughter on the back burner. So I shut my phone
that's
off when I'm
right.
done working,
That's
because,
right.
like they say, and what's funny is this guru says it too. Um, when you're not, or what do they say? Anything that happens after midnight doesn't matter unless someone's dying. And it's true,
Oh
you know what
yeah,
I mean?
it's
So
true.
when you wake up
Yeah,
in the morning, the first thing you do is check your phone. That really messes with you. So in my case, it was like, hey, realizing that, hey, put the phone to the side. If it's really important, you can maybe look at the text message and see. But at the same time, like, really
exactly.
just be present in the moment. You're a dad, you're a husband. Like, some people don't get to do that. You know what I mean? So for me, it's like, man, I've always wanted to be a dad. Okay, well, be the best dad you can be, and that's one of them. One of the
Exactly.
steps, I should say.
That's cool, man. That's cool. So listen, let's talk about real quick about that podcast. What is it called? The Winners
Paradigm, and you can get that at the
Paradigm.
winnersparadigm.com. Yes.
Okay, perfect. So talk about the winnersparadigm.com, the podcast. How did you start with the podcast? Like, what was the whole concept behind it? I mean, I was doing it because everybody else was doing it, right? I was just copying out the thing. I was like, oh, let me try it then. What was your influence for that?
So I actually listened to Zach Babcock for a couple years, and from
Okay.
there I was like, man, I love this dude's message, and he put out an offer for $47 to be able to download his course to be able to build a podcast. So I went through the
Okay.
course the two times, and I was like, man, I really want to do this. I don't have the time, I don't have the money, so I put it on a credit card, and then I really committed. And then a week before my daughter was born, I said, it doesn't matter what's going to stop me. I was talking to him about this weekend at his event, and I went to his house with him, and I was just like, man, I'm going to die before I quit this podcast. And that was kind of my, motivating factor of it. And it wasn't that,
Yeah.
I just wanted to say something crazy. No, it was, hey, I really want my being into this. And I struggled with, what am I passionate about? What's my purpose? In my case, like, having a podcast has been huge for me, because I said, week before my daughter's born, I said, this is what I'm going to do. I really want to help people. I want to learn psychology of successful individuals. I want to learn
Yeah.
psychology of how we can become successful. And I did exactly that. It's detailing that, it's showing the journey. Started a business with my mentor, Zach, which I never thought would happen. Me and him were over here kicking it at his house the other day. We recorded an episode, and I'm like sitting there and I'm like, man, am I really doing this right now? Like, not too long ago, I was just sitting and I was like, I really wish I would meet this dude. And then I meet him and I'm like, this is the older brother I never had. So it was
Wow.
one of those for me where it's like, man, just be present in the moment, do what you got to do, but really
Yeah.
just focus on being the best you can be. And that's what my podcast is about, is challenging those beliefs. It may not be what everybody likes, but you're not what everybody likes. You're what you are. So it's
Exactly.
detailing that story, that message, and just helping other people out. And I even get people I don't agree with on my podcast because I want to detail that and show people, hey, you know,
Exactly. Yeah. Oh, it went out. You froze there. I think people may have gone. Oh, you good? Oh, okay. You come on the other one.
so yeah, I was saying that
You there?
I just yeah, we're
Oh,
good to go now.
I got your twin there. Let me get your twin off of there. All
There
right.
we go. Yeah. So I'm sorry about that. I timed
No,
out,
that's
but
all right.
yeah, I just like to get the other perspective from other people, and really add more value to people and show them, hey, this is it. Whether whatever walk of life you're at, even if you came from a good background, there's still things you're gonna have to face, adversity, and that's what I've learned,
Exactly.
throughout this journey.
So how many episodes you got? How long you been doing the podcast now?
So I've been doing the podcast about 8 months now, and then I have
Okay.
about 40, probably about 43 episodes because I have some extra bonus ones in there. 40
Okay.
or episode 40 is coming out this week, and then
Okay,
from
cool.
there, have episodes scheduled all the way out to March of next year. Next year, I'm
Yeah, I
actually
see
dropping
that.
2 episodes each. Really, I can drag that to August, but I want to focus next year on going on 100 podcasts, as well as having
Okay.
100 podcasts created for myself. And then I'm even
Yeah.
starting another podcast for Alpha Influence Media. That way, I can show strategically, how to organically scale your podcast, scale your
Yeah.
business, and then be able to show people, hey, this is how you can use influence to build massive
Okay.
impact. So that's going to be the goal of that podcast, is really like talking about that. I'm gonna have Zach on there, for instance, talk about how he started his business, and he took a title run
Yeah.
out on his car. And it's one of those things where I'm gonna say that, I quit my job, and I needed to go to St. Louis for Zach's event. So I put things on credit cards, and I spent my $700 that I was going to use on ad money, to be able to go there. And then I go there and start networking, and I get up in front of the
Yeah.
crowd, and I talk in front of 80 people, and I tell them my story. And now I got people coming up to me, man, I love your story. I want you on my podcast. I want to interview you sometime. Let's connect. And it was one thing where it's like, man, I never thought I'd be in that position, but I went all in on myself, and now I was able to do that.
Wow. That's awesome, man. Hey, you gotta do what you gotta do, man, to make it. You know what I'm saying? Even if
Absolutely,
it's on
brother.
credit card, but you gotta do it, man. That's I think that's passion. You're very passionate for what you do, man. So I wish you a lot of success, man. I'm looking here at your podcast page. I'm definitely gonna subscribe to
Thank you,
that.
brother.
I'm gonna leave you a review as well. So I appreciate your time, man. I know that you got the little one over there taking a nap and whatnot. So I'm gonna go ahead and let you get back to what you gotta do, and I appreciate your time, man. Any last words you want to say to any either podcasters or guests? Let's say the podcasters, anyone that's doing podcasters that just heard you say earlier that there is a way that you can make this out of a business. You can make this actual income, or maybe like a side hustle. What advice can you give them right now?
Boom. So first one, go to
Put you on the
Podmatch.
spot right there.
Yeah, get Podmatch Pro. If you get Podmatch Pro, they actually pay you for interviewing the other pro members. So, for instance, I got
Okay.
$10, $20 off of one person. You do have to publish those episodes, and that's how you can get paid. Is once you've gave them a review, you submit it in there, and then they check off that yes, this did happen. You can get paid for it. So that's one step. Other than that, it's
Okay.
all about connecting. So you may be in a position where like, I don't want to start a business, I don't want to do this, but you get in the room with the right people, and now you guys are talking about it. So in my case, it was really that, wanted to quit my job, but I was like, I need to finish college first. And then, got in with the right people, and they were like, yo, let's start this business. I didn't hesitate. My wife, I didn't even ask the wife. She was sitting right there. You're going to start your business? And I said,
Yeah.
yeah, you're not going to complain when the money's there. And it was one thing that I just had to do. And good thing is she supports it and understands, because she's been there throughout
Exactly.
the whole journey. So in my case, I took a little bit of something and made more out of it, which I didn't think would happen.
Wow, that's awesome, man. So listen, Alondes, I appreciate your time, man. Thank you for all the information that you provided today. It's definitely a plus. So, ladies and gentlemen, follow him on the podcast. There's a website there, man. And I'm definitely going to subscribe to your channel, be following you and listening to podcasts. Now you have what's a certain days? Because you said you do have one that's just a sales podcast, and then you have different. What's the most days that you're found, like
Correct.
any
So
given day?
So I release episodes every Friday, and then in the future will
Friday.
be Wednesday and Friday as of next year. This year I'm going to get
Okay.
a couple in, so I'm so backed out that I'm now getting
Okay.
some of the celebrity guests that I want on. So I'm dropping
Oh
those
wow.
during the week too. So I'm going to get a couple. For instance, on Sunday I'm going to drop an extra episode, and it's just going to kind of be
Okay.
like that. They're going to trickle in from now. So really blowing up
Yeah.
on a massive scale there, and I want to make sure to share that with everybody. So that's my goal. Is to push more out in that. It's going to take a little bit. Next month's going to be tough for me,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
we'll make these
I
things
wish you
happen.
luck, man.
I
Yeah, I
appreciate
wish
you,
you the
brother.
best, man. Especially some celebrities out there. You get those celebrities that you're able to connect with, and I'll be looking forward to that too as well. To see who you got on there. Okay.
Absolutely, brother. Well, thank you again.
All right, Mr. Havens. You take care, man. God bless you, and be safe out there. All right.
God bless you, brother. Later.
All right, man. Later. All right, folks. So there you have it, man. Thank you again for joining us on the Young Entrepreneur Mindset Podcast. Listen, tune in to the next episode I'm going to have on the following Monday. It's going to be a very special person. There's going to be more content. And also, as you can see here at the very end of this podcast here, there on the screen, you're going to be able to see more content just like this about entrepreneurship and mindset and whatnot. So go ahead and click on those videos that you see there so you can continue to watch more content. And before we leave, I do want to leave you, as always, with a positive scripture, and it's in Psalm 23:1, and it says, "The Lord is my shepherd. I have everything I need." You have everything you need because he's your Lord, right? He lets me rest in fields of green grass and leads me to quiet pools of fresh water. All right, folks. So there you have it. Once again, thank you for tuning in. And as always, if you're ever into any natural supplements, as you can see here, I have all my natural supplements that my wife and I consume here at our home as a secondary business as well. So if you're interested in these products and maybe in the future, the business, there's the link right there on forlife.com/Santos Family. Go ahead and look it up. I'm going to have it on the description below so you could click on it and you'll be able to see all the products there and what they contain, what they're for, and whatnot. So, guys, thank you again for tuning in. I'll see you in the next episode. So, God bless you. Be safe, and thank you for tuning in. God bless.